Hello, all. BowTieSecurityGuy here, just popping in for a moment before the show starts to talk about our sponsor, ZayaHatmakers.com. Zaya Hat Makers makes really cool flat caps, awesome pins, cool shirt designs. They're a small American-owned business. They do a lot for the community in New Mexico, and they really go above and beyond for their customers, making it right the first time. If you're all about supporting American-owned businesses, if you like unique flat caps, please check out their hat cap, giveaways that they do, as well as ZayaHatmakers.com for the latest. I'll let you get back to the show. Thank you so much for listening on with the podcast. Welcome to Bowtie Security Guy After Dark, episode 41. With me today is another cyber influencer that I've just kind of followed, and I just like the way he does things, Will Klusovsky. And I wanted to have you come on, and I wanted you to have you come on for a while, just because you're one of the people that's out there actually telling it like it is, and we'll get to that. But like, how did all of this start? Like, how did you get into technology? Like, when you were younger, were you a tinkerer?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a good. You know what? That's usually we ask how I got in the career. Nobody asks about the beginning stuff, so that's cool.
I don't care about your career yet. Like, we can talk about that all day. I want to know what kind of brought you to this field.
No, it's funny. So yeah, when I was a kid, I probably wanted to be I wanted to be a fighter pilot, or like not an astronaut, but I wanted to be like a space traveler, like Star Wars, Star Trek kind of thing. My dad
is that still a job? Because I would like that job
yeah,
too.
Right. Yeah. We didn't advance history fast or technology fast enough. My father was a computer operator when that was a job in the 80s.
Nice.
So, so I had a IBM PC Junior 8086 when I was like, I don't know, 8, something like that. So I had a computer from a very young age. I was, consummate nerd probably before then as well, and after then. So I think, like definitely tinkerer. I probably took apart my stereo and never got it back together. Always, and to this day, still is somebody who will see something and be like, "That's really nice," but I could make that myself. And theoretically, I can. I know how to put all the parts together, but there's that whole thing of like practice and ability. People underestimate.
What do you mean? I need micro soldering skills.
like I know how that goes.
So did you grow up without a lot of money? Because I feel like all of us poor kids are like the ones who are like still kind of trying to build stuff that we could easily buy.
For me, I think it was more about like personal challenge, whatever. Like like I'll still see it to this day. We'll go to Michael's and my wife will be like, "Oh, that's really pretty," and I'll be like, "Dude, I can make that. It's a piece of driftwood and some freaking things." Like it's just that I think that's just like ingrained in me, is like I can just do that myself. Probably being an only child, I'm sure that probably had something to do with it. Like self-sufficient, latchkey Zennial kind of member that I am.
Right. Yeah. And you got to just kind of, well, I think I'm not sure your age, but like we feel very similar in age, where we were like, we grew up in a generation where adolescents had no technology. Like, and then like, as we became teenagers, like technology was really starting to kind of come in. So like, we got the best of both worlds. Like we lived in a world that literally no one could really, like, if somebody was recording you, it was damn clear because there was a camera that was this big.
It was massive.
There was really no question on any of that stuff. So a lot of there was a certain freedom to that. And like your parents didn't know where you were at. I would have to call from a payphone. I remember my mom was like, "Look, like just check in every few hours and like give me a collect call. I'm not going to accept it, but that way I know you're alive." And I think that generation of people make the best cybersecurity people. And it's because we have this like endless obsession with playing and tinkering and learning and challenging ourselves and never accepting good enough. Like, so you had this adolescence that I had that was very similar, and your childhood was very similar. And then you kind of break it off and you decide, look, I'm going to become a Marine for, almost a decade. Like, how did that transition happen? Was it like, I have no choice, like this technology thing isn't really working out, so I'm going to go be a comms dude? Or like, how did you fall into that opportunity? Or
Yeah.
why did you decide to enlist even?
I love that story there. So it goes back a little. So going back to like having a computer in high school, being the person who started the computer club, right?
Yeah.
Um, all of that stuff. Having learned Turbo Pascal and Visual and Basic, not Visual Basic, just Basic. I wanted to be I wanted to do video game art. So point and click games, Sierra
I feel like
Studios.
all of us, that was our
Yeah,
goal. Like, we want to be video game
yeah.
designers.
I still say it today. I'm a creative in the tech field, and so I always wanted to, and I wasn't necessarily a good artist, but I was like, oh well, I know how to, I can learn how to code the stuff and blah, blah, blah. So dumb me didn't test out of any computer classes. I just went right for a computer science degree and
Yeah.
got immediately bored. Uh,
Yeah. That's
so
That's
I
where
was
your
attend.
undiagnosed or diagnosed ADHD has kicked in, where you're like, "Hey, wait a minute." uh, and
Very
once I
much.
get bored, I instantly check out.
Yeah, I was attending University of Houston, which had a very very good creative writing program, and I was like, I always wanted to be a writer. I loved writing, so I started studying to be a writer. And I never took the ASVAB, which is the test you take to get in the Marine Corps or the military. I
Mhm.
never had any desire to go into the military because I knew I couldn't be a fighter pilot because I didn't have good enough vision and I
Yep.
didn't get accepted to the Air Force Academy. So that was just kind of off the table for me, and I had let it go. And my dad was a Marine, so I knew if I ever did join the Marine Corps, it would be in the Marines. So I don't know, somewhere in that studying creative writing, I realized there are no famous, rich 21-year-old authors in the 90s. So even if I finish this degree, where am I going to be? And so I literally, that combined with watching The Rock a lot, Nicolas
Yeah.
Cage, and playing Metal Gear Solid on PlayStation, the original. I was like, I'm going to join the Marine Corps and blow some stuff up so I have something to write about. And that's pretty much how it came about. I
Oh,
did not join the Marine Corps in a
yeah.
technical degree plan. I joined the Marine Corps to go blow things up.
Well, it was interesting. I actually talked to somebody. Their job was to build the military sims. So what they realized was in the like 90s to 2000s, these young kids who had enlisted were dying because their reflexes were programmed on video games.
Oh.
So they worked with Call of Duty and the other large franchises that were starting to come out in the early 2000s, and they developed simulators that would mimic real M16 fire, would mimic the real trigger pull. Like, all of those things were designed specifically to keep kids safe who were enlisting. That way, their muscle memory wasn't getting them killed. And I was like, I took a moment. I was like, hang on. So these games are legit, that like they were legit training, and they're like, yeah, we worked with Electronic Arts, we worked with all these different companies, and that was my job, was to design these simulators to be more realistic. That way these kids would be safer when they enlisted, because their
Mm,
muscle memory would take over, and that millisecond delay was the difference between life and death.
that's pretty
And
smart.
I was just like, that is the wildest thing. So you join the military to blow stuff up, but then you become a comms guy, it looks like, for several years. So that's a bit different. Now comms is a glorified badass in my opinion, because like anybody's got to crawl through a jungle to drop an antenna somewhere just so people can get communication. You've earned my respect in general. You've got my respect because you've already joined the military, but you've really earned it when I know what it takes to be a comms guy in the Marines. It's a no joke type scenario. But how did you end up kind of falling into the comms role? Was it something you just had an aptitude for, or
No, well, so yeah, the when I took my ASVAB, eventually my recruiter was like, "Oh, you scored high enough, you can do whatever you want," and I was like, "No, I want to go blow stuff up." So,
I knew
um,
it.
I joined the Marine Corps with a reconnaissance contract, which is the like Marine Special Forces, basically. So I in something you cannot do today anymore, by the way. So at least to my knowledge, you can't. I know they got rid of the program because of this. I think me and a bunch of us. What happened is, so we a bunch of us go through all the schooling. You go for you go to the boot camp, you go to infantry school, and then you go right. You have to still pass the indoc to go to reconnaissance school. Go to reconnaissance school, and then you don't pass. That's what happened to me. I flunked out. It happened. Right? It's hard. Who
Yeah.
knows? And so at that point, the Marine Corps owns your contract. And you're no longer, it didn't matter that I was already designated to be an infantry guy and already was trained to it. And they could have sent me to any unit because I was qualified. They're like, no, you're ASVAB's too high. We're going to send you to comm school. So
Uh,
I end up at comm school. I do my thing there. I straight up trade orders with somebody else so that I can go to an infantry unit because again, I didn't join the Marine Corps to fix radios and telephones. So I did everything I could to spend as much time in the infantry unit. I became a marksmanship instructor. I spent time with the snipers, like dude, I was like, here, you guys need a class on whatever, like fine. Which is how I got into it. But I still continued to make to try and do the stuff that I wanted to do, which was go out and have fun with guns and ammunition.
yeah. No, and I think that's kind of key, right? I think a lot of our field specifically is kind of creating and forging your own path. Because when I wanted to do incident response, like I didn't wait for an opportunity, I made one.
Mhm.
I was like, hey, you need a liaison between my team and the IR team. And then I was like, hey, I've been hanging out with you guys for a while. Why don't I just come start doing IR stuff? And hey, when you get that role open, why don't I just go ahead and move myself on into it? Um, I feel like a lot of that is dying in our field, and we'll definitely get to that. But so, like, you got to the military, you went through your military, you did your time, you left the military. How hard was it to find a job in the civilian life as far as like in technology at that time? Was it difficult?
No, and I had a. It's funny just to go back on what you said. The whole like making your own path.
Yeah.
The reason I was early deployed into Afghanistan and I was the person who set up the radio in Kandahar at the airport,
Holy crap, man.
because I was one of the few people who knew how to use a piece of technology that was necessary, and the other people that could use it couldn't leave the ship for so that whole like set your own path kind of thing,
Yeah.
that happened as a result of it. And but getting back to so coming back for all of that, here this is the challenge. I kind of talk to people today is like, I feel bad for you trying to get a job in this space with no experience, because I had 8 years of experience in cybersecurity, in security and technology, one way or another, right? That I was able to lean on. I had my degree, so it was very easy to find a job for me. Like I had a job like 7, 8 months before I was supposed to leave,
Right.
lined up, and then I just kept looking. It wasn't the one. It wasn't necessarily the one I wanted, but it was close, and it paid me enough money. And I was like, all right, cool. Wife and I have kids, feel great about it. We're good to go. But yeah, it was pretty simple, and that's the challenge today. And it's also why when people ask me, I get a lot of like people who are getting there, like they're in their bachelor's and they're like, what should I do next? And it's like, go get a job. Like I
Yeah.
would rather hire somebody with a bachelor's degree and 4 years experience than a master's degree and no experience. Like get your master's, let the company pay for it. That kind of, which is what I did also. Same thing. I got my
Yeah.
master's after I had like 10 years of experience. So,
I think that's such a critical mindset too, is kind of shifting your mind and realizing that getting a job,
mhm.
regardless of what it is, as long as it's tech adjacent,
Yes.
is what you should be chasing. If you're chasing like, "Oh, I wanna be a red teamer, I wanna be a" no, bro, like, it's not gonna happen right out the gate. Like, you gotta earn your stripes, so to speak.
Yeah.
Um, it's they're not gonna just bring in some new guy off the street and say, "Hey, you're gonna become a hacker." Like, that's not how it works. And I talk to people all the time. They're like, "Well, I want to do defer." It's like, okay, well, cool. Like forensics
Work
is
in the SOC.
awesome, but like maybe 5% of the companies have a full forensics lab.
It's
Almost
fun.
all of them.
I
Uh,
similarly, it's like I got into this space because the last gig I had, it was a first responder unit at outside of DC, real high profile, lots of budget,
mhm.
and just me and another guy in a room with really thick walls, lots of locks and red wires, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's when I kind of realized like this cybersecurity thing is like it's pretty. Basically, I was like, I'm gonna have a job forever, and it pays really well. And it was at that point I was like, I want to be a CISO. And so same thing. So like immediately leaving, I had that mindset of everything I'm doing is I want to be a CISO. And so I was one of those annoying brats too, who was like, why can't I be a CISO now? Right. and
yeah.
and I
Oh
joke
man.
with me and my other executive buddies now, and it's like, you want to be a CISO, run a program for 20 years first. And then you can be a CISO.
Yeah, and then you can have a conversation with me what it's like,
Yeah.
right? I try to explain that to people. It's like a lot of people are like, "Oh man, it must be amazing." Like I'm a Fortune 500 executive. They're like, "That's got to be amazing." I was like, "Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I worked really hard to get here. Really proud of what I've accomplished, but
Yeah.
a lot of what you do is not work. A lot of what you do is political. A lot of what you do is conversation and learning to speak, learning soft skills
Mm,
was one of the smartest moves I ever did early career.
yeah.
Because I've been in the room with engineers way smarter than me, but I could talk better than they could, and I could explain things better than they could, and because of that, they listened.
I learned that early in my consulting career, and I tell people
Yep.
all the time, like they ask why I'm doing like when I'm on, sort of on the pre-delivery side, all the marketing, sales, and solutioning. It's like
Yeah.
because sometime early on, people realize we'll speak good. You know?
Sure. Straight up, they're like, "Hey, we could put this guy in front of people," and I'm like, "But I don't really wanna be in front of people," and they're like, "Yeah, but you're really good at it." "Yeah, but it doesn't mean I wanna do it." Like,
And here
there's
you are with your own show.
dude, don't get me like, trust me. I've been on LinkedIn for approximately 3 years. I got laid off, and the recruiters were basically like, "Hey, we can't find you online." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm a professional ethical hacker. Like, why would you be able to find me online?" And they're like, "Well, on paper, you look really amazing. In reality, when somebody searches for you, you don't exist. So they're gonna assume that you're a scam or that you're deep state or nation state." And I was like, "You've got to be kidding me." They're like, "No, you need an online presence." So like I hit LinkedIn way too hard when I was laid off and built a social brand accidentally. So like how about you? Like you've grown to thousands of followers. Um, you create a ton of content to kind of help and educate people. Like I is this just some sort of like thing that we do? We just morph into this person?
It's funny because I remember in the early days of selling IR retainers and when red team was actually like becoming a new thing that other people use, we would hire people who would not have a LinkedIn profile specifically because they're like, no,
straight
we
up.
put people in jail. I don't want them to be able to find me, right?
Yeah.
Kind of stuff. And now, like you said, it all shifts. And now I see them now and they're, kind of putting stuff out there. But yeah, I think I don't know that we all become this. For me, specific, like I don't want to say unique. I'm sure a lot of people have the same story I do, but with LinkedIn. But I have been on it since pretty much since I got out of the Marine Corps around 2008. I think I built my profile.
Wow.
I think I looked at it. And I had, a few thousand connections and, being the guy who was helping CISOs and executives and whoever solve their problems in a consulting capacity. I knew a lot of people. So I was like, if I ever get laid off, it'll be really easy. I just, pull up this digital Rolodex and say, hey, buddy, you want to hire me? And so when I got laid off the first time, I realized it's not that easy
Oh, I
because
was about to say, you remember those days? That
yeah,
was nice.
so I realized like if you don't nurture that network, if you don't
No.
build that network, if you don't actually have a relationship, that being connected to somebody doesn't matter. So in 2020, that's when I got my laid off, and I realized that, and I was like, I'm making a concerted effort. From that point forward, I was like, LinkedIn is a priority. It's something I do to nurture the relationships I have, and also I want to help and give back because I don't want other people to do the same thing. So somewhere in like, so after that, actually, when I went to work at another job shortly after that, I referred in no less than 40 people to my company. I think I got like 14 hired, right?
Yeah.
Just because I'd made that mindset of like, I'm going to help people get in.
Oh man, that's what I've done. And I think getting laid off, both of us got laid off kind of around the same time in that like 2020, 2021 time frame, when your job is your identity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you and I both were in that same boat. And I'm assuming, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. Our job was who we were. Like we were excited about it. We like tell people about it. We enjoyed the work we did, and it really meant a lot to us. And when that is taken from you, you lose a
Mm-hmm.
lot of yourself, and you realize how toxic the relationship you had was with work. It was a really big wake up call for me, where I went through like a time of mourning where I
Mm-hmm.
was just like, thankfully I had money and I wasn't worried about that, but I still felt like an absolute failure. When you got laid off, how did you feel? Like what was your mindset like?
Mine was a little different
Mhm.
because the uh man, I loved my time at the organization. I spent 10 years there. Every
Yeah,
2 years we were changing.
yeah,
And I owe so much to that company because, and even to this day, like a lot of my mindset is all built from that. Like you said, I paved my own way. I haven't taken a job that had a job description that I applied for since then. Every job has been, oh, there's this thing that needs to be done. I'm going to do it and then create a job description, or got to a point where, oh, Will's available. He's smart. Can we hire him and then find a place for him? Right.
straight up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So with that, all that constant change, I had the time and service. I knew what was coming. I had actually started looking forever. When I had that much time, I was like, I'll get my severance and then I'll get a job tomorrow. Right. That was the
right.
joke. A bunch of us knew, it was like, we'll get our severance and then we'll all get jobs at this other place next week. But next week ended up being like 4 months later, which, burns up your severance that you get. So yeah, so it was, I mean, yeah, it was, it was not unknown that happened, but I definitely, I think to that point of like, man, I really expected me to like have 15 job offers in like a
I
week.
I straight up felt the exact same way. Even with just because I spent my whole life helping and educating and growing
Yeah.
people. And it's not that people didn't want to hire me, it's that they literally had no funding. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not that there isn't a shortage in cyber. There is. The problem is we
Specific.
don't have money to fill it.
Right.
Yeah, that's great, but if I'm given the opportunity to hire, they're gonna say, "Hey, I need you to hire a guy in India. I need you to hire a guy outside the US because they're drastically less expensive." And you get the same quality many times. I've got a full team in India that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're building out these teams in these cyber programs, many times it's not that you have the right amount of people that you need. It's that you have as many people as you've been allotted with the amount of money
Yeah.
you've been right.
My
So
oh, go
yeah,
ahead.
go
I
no,
was gonna say my biggest problem was I'm a generalist. And
yeah,
so
master of nothing or
yeah, oh
jack of
yeah,
all trades, master of none.
master of all, yeah, master of none, but like, better than master, because again, I was the person you sat in front of the CISO or whatever, and oh, you talking pen test today? You want to talk GRC? You want to talk managed service? Didn't matter. I needed to. I learned what business impact analysis was, because I had some client ask me about wanting to do something similar to that. I didn't know what it was. I went and did some research. I was like, oh, this is a BIA. Cool. Okay,
And
cool. And then you go
when
sell
you
it to
say some research, Will,
them.
how much did you fall down a research hole, and how many hours later did you come out of it?
that's that's the thing, like, and again, that's a mindset thing and why I work so well on the pre-sale side. And I would do, and it would frustrate me. I would hire people, and my whole thing was like, not hire, I would work with some people who will not talk about something if they didn't understand everything about it.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I'm like, I get that, like, I understand you want to know the inner workings of it, but like, I'm a guy who's like, let me figure this out and get the gist of it, and then I'm comfortable going and teaching it, right?
Yep. Same.
And that's the best way to
give me a
learn.
ballpark understanding, and I'll figure out the rest. I always say that I've never applied for a job that I was actually qualified for.
And that was my problem. I was like, I talked to somebody who's like, well, we're looking for somebody who can do this. I'm like, I can do that. I can do that. Too. I can do that. Whatever. Like,
yeah. Like, have you ever built a program before? No.
How it's hard not that hard. You do this, and this, right? I'll figure it out.
I think that comes down to that mindset that we have, that kind of constant thirst for knowledge and that obsession to tap our adrenaline and constantly kind of get dopamine from learning new things and new skills. For me, it's ADHD. Like my autism, like they kind of kick in, and I'm just like, I'm going to about this. Like I read 244 pages of Anthropic's freaking white pages today for no reason. I'm now more informed on Mythos, but what
to what end?
What value did I get from it? I would say it's very much like burn after reading. What did we learn? Absolutely nothing, right? So you dive into these things and you kind of learn a lot of stuff and you get a lot of data, but then the goal of a cyber professional is to be able to explain that in a way that doesn't make people feel stupid. And I think that's one of the hardest skills to learn. And one of the ones I always try to tell my mentees is like, hey, that's great that you're really technical. The dude you're going to interview with, he's not.
Yeah.
And if you make him feel stupid, he's not going to hire you. Yeah. So like, you want to bring him on the same wavelength. Like very rarely are they going to talk to people like us who are in high leadership roles who are also extremely technical.
Yeah.
That is an anomaly. We're very hard to find because one, normally they have no people skills, right? You can be super technical, but you can't be also personable. It's very difficult to find that combo. And two, if they are really technical and they are slightly personable, they're assholes. Yeah. Like there's no in between.
I used to, when I would have like the scenario is, I'm presenting the solution to the whatever this executive's deciding, and hey, we're going to do it. And you ultimately get the one person who's like, well, I want to talk to the engineer. And I'll be like, okay, here's what's going to happen. I will go get him out of his basement. He's going to come up here. He is not polished like me. He's going to call your baby ugly. He will answer all of the questions you want as bluntly as possible. But like, you need to, you always have to prepare them because it's like, oh no, this isn't a sales engineer. This is like the engineer.
I was very much that engineer. They're like, hey, we'll bring in Rob, but like, be aware, Rob's kind of an abrasive asshole. Rob, and it was so funny because I had somebody in my 20s be like, you're not nearly as mean as they say you were. And I was like, whoa, what? And she's like, yeah, I've been warned by everybody that you're really rude and kind of abrasive. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't know that. Like, explain, tell me more.
Because we're used to just being like, oh, you asked for this information, I'm giving it to you. Like, it's not I'm very much like, it took me a long time to learn that,
dude.
I am being an asshole right now.
Yeah,
I didn't get
I'm the problem. Yeah. So as a leader, this is my hardest skill that I learned as a leader, which is just because I can do it that way, doesn't mean I should expect you to do it that quickly. Like I used to get so frustrated when I would be like, hey, can you do X? And they don't know this skill. And then I'm like, okay, it's been 8 hours.
Go figure it out.
Why aren't you proficient in this now? And I realized that that's when I started to kind of catch on that I don't learn at the same pace that a lot of people do. Mm-hmm. My ability to absorb knowledge, take in data, and then be able to put that data together and then formulate a plan based on very limited data sets is my power. It's my superpower. Like I can come into a situation where everything's on fire. I can go boom, 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 boom. And I go, okay, here's what we do next.
Yeah, we're the calmest during crisis. I'm the 100%. Same way. And I've had in transitioning from the Marine Corps to the civilian world where the Marine Corps has the saying, it's called message to Garcia. and there's a book, you can read it online for free, and it's basically they give this message to Garcia, and his job is to deliver the message, and he deals with all these problems along the way, and never does he stop and go back and say, oh, I couldn't do it or whatever. And so that's the whole mentality. It's like, I told you what to do, go figure it out.
Yeah.
And in the civilian world, that does not work. And I've you know that little meme where you're laying in bed and it's like, you're going to sleep now? Yeah. You want to think about all the things you've ever done wrong? Damn it. Like the times I've blown up at people because they didn't learn something as quickly as I would, or because I was like, hey, go do this. And they're like, I don't know how to do that. When I'm going, well, I would have just gone and done the research and figured out how to do it. I wouldn't have. And now I realize, oh, they're asking to be taught. They need to be educated. I'm supposed to help them. Like that's what leadership is. And that's when you're early, young, and really, really smart, you screw that up.
God, do you? Yeah, I was probably a really bad boss. Like I finally got into a leadership role, I think, where I was slightly mature enough to do it. But like my early leadership role, I was very much like I was the guy from like Saturday Night Live. Move. Like, let me go ahead and write this up. I think that problem that we see and that you and I have addressed and worked on for years, like for Will and I to get up and present, to do the things we do, to educate people is not like a overnight deal. This is a decade of life lessons and failure and being punched in the face and being the raging asshole nobody wants to work with until finally somebody has the balls to say, hey man, you don't have to be such a dick.
Yeah, don't be a dick. Rule number one, like I learned it, like finally.
Yeah. It was that was my pivotal moment with my leader, is she was just like, hey, everyone hates you and no one wants to work with you. And I was like, I need more context. Like I wasn't even upset about it. I just needed to understand why so I could correct it.
I remember in the Marine Corps, like I remember like again, I did very well through boot camp and school. And, despite, a couple of failures here and there, you and I probably had a similar experience where like, oh, we're always the rock star. We're always the leader. You become the one who knows everything. Like I was literally the knowledge recruit in boot camp, right? I didn't realize how easy it was to learn stuff until I was surrounded by a bunch of people who struggled to learn, right? And so, yeah, I forgot where I was going with all this.
The squirrel.
Yeah, just exactly the squirrel thing. Yeah, that idea of like, oh man, I lost it.
Well, I mean, just the idea that you can learn at that rapid pace, but other people can't learn at that speed is humbling. And it's one of those things that I went on what like I call my apology tour, and I've talked about it many times here before, where like I was like, oh my God, I had no idea.
Oh
like,
yeah.
I really thought I was just trying to help you. And one of the things that she taught me, and I still remember it, was like, hey, she's like, what is your greatest teacher? And I said, failure. She goes, why are you taking that away from people? And I was like, oh, damn, that hit hard. Well done. I was like,
context and framing. You needed that translation to understand it.
I did. And I feel like people like us, and a lot of technical people who are driven to this field are non-neurotypical people. And the interview process in itself is broken for those people. Like, how do you find talent that doesn't have the ability to articulate how good they are? Is that through mentoring, or like, what do you do to find people? Like, is it just word of mouth? Or like, if you opened a job today, are you going to go through hundreds of resumes and all the AI stuff that's coming in? Or are you going to go to your Rolodex of people that you know?
Mm-hmm. That's it. I haven't applied for a job that I didn't know. If even if there was a job, I still knew somebody internally that referred me in. I haven't had an interview with a company where I didn't have a referral in at least a few years. And I've built full teams. A couple of jobs ago, me and a couple of other, it was one of those things. One of these guys that always tries to hire me when I'm available. At time, things synced up. We got to work together for a little while, He took the team from 5 to like, I think it was like 40 or 50 when I got there, or no, maybe not that high, maybe in the 20s. And then we probably got it to near 60s. But every time we needed somebody, it was just like, hey, I need somebody who can do this. Do you know somebody? Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to call somebody and steal them from somewhere else. And I'm doing that now. I have people I talk to on a regular basis. I'm like, I'm not ready for you, but when I am, know the phone call's coming.
And that is how people get jobs in this field.
Yeah.
That's how we fill entry-level roles. That's how we fill senior roles. That's how we fill. And the reason is the AI has not broken the resume or interview process. AI has just really shined a spotlight on the fundamental problem of that process in general.
Yeah.
Which is you get inundated with people who make stuff up to pass it, to add a bunch of keywords. You end up spending 10 to 15 hours interviewing candidates that just do not have the skills. And you and I are the type of leaders where we're willing to invest in talent and we're willing to teach talent and educate talent. But majority of leaders are simply not.
Well, you've got the 15-year younger version of you and me sitting back as the manager who doesn't really understand the job description they wrote or what this person's supposed to be doing.
ChatGPT wrote it for them.
Yeah. And then you've got a talent acquisition person who's a generalist and doesn't understand cybersecurity and IT. And then you've got the fact that like somebody was in recruiting at one of the companies I worked for, and she said something I'll never forget. And she said, "You know why I love working in recruiting? Because the bar is so low to be good. Like just to be adequate at your job is like very minimal amount of effort, much less to be good at it. Like, and so like you and I probably same thing. If I were ever going to need to hire a recruiting firm, I already know the 5 people that I would call. Right. Yep, and that's it. That's the only ones I'm calling.
100%. And if they can't handle it, it wasn't meant to be handled.
Yeah, exactly. Then I guess that role is it's not real. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. And it's amazing because as you go through your career, I think you'll pick up mentees, you'll pick up these young kids who get really excited, and you'll mentor them, sink time into them. And of course you want to see them succeed, but you also hold them to the same standards you do anyone else who interviews. So like if you've got 8 or 10 people who are going through the interview, it's how they perform then.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many people that are at every level, senior to junior levels that I've hired that under that pressure, because the interview process is kind of broken, they can't function. Right. And that is, I think, the hardest part is because somebody has the talent and skills, but you also know that the interview process isn't fully flushed out to make them successful.
Yeah, that's the worst when you expect somebody to just crush it and they're like, I didn't really like. I hate that when if I refer somebody somewhere else. I'm like, oh, you're gonna love this guy. He's great. He's got all kinds of, and they're like, yeah, I really wish he was a little more this or that or had a little. And I'm like,
I wish I would have, Googled the role and done a minimum of
I try to coach him into that a little bit more now. But again, there's times in the past where I wouldn't do that. I'd be like, oh yeah, this guy's awesome. And then go interview and be like, it wasn't that awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I always, somebody recently was like, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity and connecting me with this company. And I was like, you don't need to thank me. Like if you weren't good, I wouldn't have recommended you. Yeah. Like you've earned the opportunity. I'm just cracking the door. It's your job to kick it in. Right.
One of the things I've coached a lot of people on when they interview is because the interview process is broken, and you and I probably saw this a bunch, and it helped us, which is they're going to the HR talent person, whoever the first gate is going to ask you, tell me a time when ... And what and you're going to be like, well, I haven't done that. I don't have that experience. And on paper, they're asking to validate that experience, but in their mind, what they really need to know is how would you deal with that situation? So I always tell them, I was like, answer it as if you had the job and say, well, if that situation were to happen, this is what I would do. And I would do A, B, and C. And because I have the skills I learned here, that would help me do this. And then you guys would get the benefit of that. And to basically tell that person a story, and they will forget that you didn't technically answer the question. Because at the end of the day, they want to know how you're going to perform in that role doing that job. If all they cared about was years of experience, or that you had experience, they could just call other people and be like, was he a GRC manager for 5 years? Yep. Okay, good. Like, then the interview wouldn't matter.
The interviews have become, especially now, I would argue more than ever, have become more of a like, do you want to hang with this person?
Yeah. The
like
layover.
the layover, right? Yeah. Do you want to spend 4 hours in an airport with this person and share some beers? If the answer is no, you're probably not going to get the job. And that it sucks, right? And a lot of what I tell people is you need to build relationships, you need to build your network, you need to connect with people, because like when the Wills of the world and the Robs of the world open opportunities, they're going to open them to those they know first. And then they're going to maybe try to find one or two people to interview just that were non referrals, just because they like feel bad about the fact that they've stacked the deck with all these rock stars. But but you have the same odds coming in as anybody else. But the reality is, like, from the outside, if you're trying to get a job interview, it's just going to be so hard. And now with so many people laid off, I mean, what, Oracle laid off 30,000 or so last month via an email.
Yeah.
Like, we're getting to a point where we're becoming so callous with our terminations that like job loyalty is no longer a thing. Like, we can't expect somebody to like, I don't even ask the question, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Yeah.
Because I find so little value in it. I ask questions that are more like, tell me what a firewall is, but explain it to me as if I'm a child.
I love that, because I used to tell people all the time, I was like, it's great that you're certified in Palo Alto or Fortinet or whatever, but I've worked with people who just read the flow chart and do the thing. I'm like, I don't care that you can push the buttons. I can teach you what buttons to push on any firewall. You need to explain to me why the any rule is bad, right? You need to tell me why you're creating rules that do this and how it's going to work. Like, understand the functionality, not the buttons.
And you need to be able to explain it to me in a way that if I'm not technical, it's not insulting. Because as soon as you start to insult someone's intelligence by sounding uber technical, they punch out. And you've already lost the argument. I think you as a CISO have that firsthand, right? Like, if you come in and you're like, look, we can't leave this open. This cross-site scripting vulnerability could cause XYZ. Like, they would be like, what are you even talking about, bro? Like, no. But if you explain the risk and the impact of that risk, the details don't matter. Right. And that's the thing I think a lot of people are missing out on, is they don't have that fundamentals. At least the people that I've talked to who are coming out of colleges, they're not tinkerers anymore. They learn what they need to learn to pass the test. They come out and they're like, I'm King S because I know all this stuff.
Yep.
And then I'm like, cool, man. Like, how would you identify an invalid packet within a PCAP stream? Like, how would you be able to know that? And they're like, what's a PCAP? And that's like,
it's the Gordon Ramsay. It's the Gordon Ramsay thing, right? Like, for anybody who knows, like, he got out of school and thought he was hot shit and failed, like, just miserably. His first restaurant. It's like, it doesn't matter how technical, like, again, like, one, if people don't work at the two, like, you have, like, there's being able to apply the knowledge in that environment and work together and do the work. Like, and to get me started on college, like, when you and I went to school, there was no cybersecurity degrees, and I've seen the curriculum for most of them, and there's still probably very few of them.
Ironically, no college degree, and I helped write many of those curriculums. So I agree wholeheartedly with you. Like, it's taught on knowledge that's old. A lot of times, because technology is moving at such a rapid pace, like, it's very difficult to create a curriculum that's going to age well.
Yeah.
You've got to teach the fundamentals and basics, but they're boring. They're not flashy. They're not fun. And these kids don't stay engaged because they're coming from a generation of 2 to 3 minute content is where they get. I mean, you and I both see it with our social media. My 2 to 3 minute videos get literally thousands of views. This hour-long talk that we're doing literally will be like 12, right? Yeah. And then I'll create like 10 or 15 shorts from this conversation that'll make up thousands.
Exactly.
But that's the reality of the attention span of a lot of technologists nowadays. So you've got these older gentlemen who don't believe they need to kind of adapt to modern
Mhm.
standards. Like they're like, I'm not going to build, like my buddy is amazingly smart architect, security architect. And I'm like, you need to be on LinkedIn if you're going to get a job, like, period.
Yeah.
Like, people need to be able to search you. And he's like, I'm a security professional. I was like, I get it, bro.
Yeah,
You know,
me
my
too.
heart goes out to you, but I'm telling you right now, no one is going to hire you because the first thing they do is they say, what is your LinkedIn? Or the recruiter will say, here's his LinkedIn.
Every and I get I know you do, inboxes flooded with, you should see so and have so and so on your podcast. I need a link to their LinkedIn.
Yep.
If somebody applies to a job, it better have I'm going to look at their LinkedIn and their resume. I'm still going to look at their resume, but I'm going to look at their LinkedIn first. And especially if those two things don't match up, right? If you haven't put
Yeah.
the time in. So it's, you have to have it like today, because you have to network, and we're living in a global world, right? It's just the way it is.
Yeah. The time where you could just be the really smart guy who worked by himself has died.
Yeah. Well,
Like,
and that the other on that, while I remember, sorry for the interruption.
no, you're good, brother.
This is something I did a couple of talks last year on planning your career in cybersecurity. And that was something I told people. I was like, look, the person who, you know how I got promoted and got to where I was? I went to my SVP and said, literally, it was like, you need to groom me. Like, I want to run this company one day. Like, you need to freaking do that. And he's like, are you sure? Like, you need tough skin. I was like, no, yeah, absolutely. I went and asked for it. And then that's when you get told, and the person who is visible, vocal, and seen is going to get promoted over the person who is the most technically skilled person, who just keeps their head down and does the job better than anybody else, for two reasons. One, nobody knows that person's there.
Yep.
And if they're doing a good job, that's exactly the way it should be.
Yeah.
And two, you're signaling by not asking for it that you're happy where you're at, right? So you're never going to, and that's completely okay, man. The reference I give people is, if you want to be the Jason Bourne of hacking, that's cool. Like, you're just going to go to work every day and hack.
Yep.
That's good. But remember, like, you're going to tap out, and that's going to be where you're at. If you ever want to go somewhere else, you have to learn other skills. You have to be able to talk to people and work with people and do other things.
And be able to pivot and kind of challenge your own comfort levels to a point where you're going into a room knowing that the odds are pretty high that you're going to dork this up.
Yeah.
And still do it, right? And I feel like so many people get so in their head about failing that they end up failing because they're in their head.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, my whole career, and still to this day, if I have a meeting with a CISO or a CEO, I'm not going to say nervous, because I've done it enough. It's not that. I expect that person to just be brilliant and know way more than me. And I'm not, it's probably, it's a little imposter syndrome, but it's also a little more like, well, they've reached this, they've achieved this goal.
Smarter, right? They have to be. Yeah.
And then you walk in and you're like, oh, this guy's a buffoon.
There have been many times, and this is back when I had zero filter, and my autism was in its full spectrum, where I had not tamed that beast at all. Where my boss goes, "Do you think you could do my job?" And I was like, "Oh God, without a question!" Like,
I've had that exact situation.
and he's like, "You're not supposed to answer that. That was me just being pissed off." And I was like, "Oh, my bad. Like, I can I walk that back? I don't know what to do here. I'm not a person who asks questions I don't want answers to, so I don't know how to answer your hypothetical that you didn't actually ask."
You're rhetorical. I'm sorry.
It was only when I was like in my 40s, like early 40s, I got diagnosed with autism, and I was like, "Oh, okay, cool. I'm like, at least I have an excuse for being weird."
Now I know. Now everything makes so much more sense.
Totally did. Yeah, I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." That's why I do all those things. It also helped me learn. My diagnosis really helped me understand myself better, which I think made me a better and a more effective communicator and leader, because I realized that being the smartest person in the room has very limited value.
Yeah.
Being the person in the room who can get the other people in the room who aren't talking to talk,
Yes.
that's invaluable.
Yeah. I
Creating an environment where anyone feels comfortable speaking and like whether they sound stupid or not, whether the idea is insane, that is a skill that you have to work on.
Yeah, for sure. And you have to deal with the other Wills and Robs in the room that are going to make them feel stupid to give them the safe. You got to create the safe space. It's the growth mindset, right? Like, hey, everybody, we're going to talk about things and what we tried and what failed so we can all learn from it. Don't call somebody an idiot because they did something, because you know the answer to the thing they tried, right?
Yeah. Just because you're smart in this one area doesn't
Yeah.
mean you're smart. I always say that the difference between someone being an idiot and someone being smart is just simply education, right? It's just putting a little bit of effort into learning about something. Like anyone can be taught. It's hard to retain that data and then
Yeah.
use that data.
Very true.
And that's one of the skills I feel like a lot of people are losing and a lot of people in our field just no longer have at all. What are you seeing with a lot of the new people and things that you're interviewing, the 20-year-olds and things coming out? Are you seeing similar where there's a lot of like core basic knowledge that just is non-existent?
I don't get too, I'm kind of far removed from that,
That's
from
fair.
those
At your level,
people.
I feel level
Well,
out.
and it's just, but I talk to a lot of people who, obviously I get a lot of communication from those people for various reasons, right? And it is, and because most of the content I create is about that translation, about how, like, somebody posted today how it's time for the board to learn cyber's job. We should stop translating. And I was literally like, dude, that's the CISO job. Like, that's the
That's what
whole
your
job is make them understand what you know so they don't need to learn your job. They need to know you need to do A, B, or C. Here's the cost and here's the impact. Like, that's the whole job.
What am I starting, stopping, or paying for? Right?
Yeah, exactly. So when I talk to a lot of younger, it is more of those soft skills, because I don't have, like, I'm not, I am kind of coaching them through that type of stuff. And then when I talk about, like when I did my whole planning your cybersecurity, it's like being very, very proactive in that, and very like actually planning it. Like you said, especially for those not in any job, like, when I ask you, what do you want to do in cybersecurity? You need to have an answer for that and know that, like, I want to work in a SOC. I want to be a pen tester. I want to work in GRC. I want to be a CISO, whatever that is. But the second part of that is you need to be prepared to take anything, right? Because your foot in the door.
Move anywhere.
Yes.
And you've got to be willing to take the garbage pay that entry level is.
Yeah, exactly. I had a kid I knew, who was studying computer science, and he came to me and he said, he's like, I really don't like coding or programming. He's like, should I quit school and get an IT job? And I said, absolutely. I said, just quit, get a shitty help desk job. It'll suck for a couple of years, and then in 5 years you'll be making six figures somewhere. Right? Like, that's all you have to do. I was like, just suck it up for a little while, learn as much as you can. And I was like, learn about cloud, learn about identity. Like, here's some of the things that like are going to separate you from just being a help desk guy.
Yeah.
And he's, lo and behold, he's, a year into a shitty help desk job right now. and not $100,000 in debt for a computer science.
No, as somebody who basically took that same path and just, started at the level 1 help desk, and worked my way up to where I am now. Like, it is so critical. Those skills that you learn as a level 1 help desk analyst, you will use your entire career.
Here's something that I learned. My youngest daughter is pre-med. And her and her doctor are like best friends. They talk all the time about stuff. And she actually works for the same practice, like part-time. So she's a floater. That's because they told her, they're like, once you get into school, every part-time job you have, every summer job you had needs to be in the medical field, right? They want you to build up that experience that will help you get into medical school. And she kind of looked, she's talked to some more people, and a lot of the reasoning behind that isn't just the experience. It's also they want you to have dealt with patients. because
Oh, yeah, because those
you
are the
can be
hardest
the
people.
smartest person in the world in whatever your thing is, but if you've never been in that situation before where like you've got an angry person who's mad about their bill or what, or you've got somebody who, families yelling over here about the thing that's going, like, all you think about all of the, like, you'll talk about disaster recovery and business continuity, man. An emergency room is a place where you will learn about an emergency situation, right?
Yeah.
So that's literally why they do that. They want them to have that, and I think it's to me that translates very well to, hey, if you're going to be in cybersecurity or IT, like, you need to have some time in front of clients. Like, you need to understand what that's about.
So what advice would you give to kids? So we've established that the cyber shortage is just a blatant lie. I mean, yes, there's a shortage, but no, there's no money. Like, we're
The
not.
problem is we have a diamond, and
Yeah,
all the,
yeah,
the shortage is in the middle,
it is.
and everybody's at the top and the bottom right
Right,
now.
right.
You and I
So
have just as hard of a time as the people at the outside.
yeah, yeah. What advice would you give to somebody who's trying to break into technology? What do you think the most important skill to learn is?
Man, well, you need to find a way to separate yourself from them, I think. Um, Assuming from a technical standpoint, like, if, like, you talk, I think it's that interview process, and then, I mean, first off, if you've got a network, like, that's gonna solve a lot of your problems, but you're still gonna have to go through that interview process. So learning how to tell a story, I think, is very important. Learning how to speak to people, um, not just in the technical terms, but to help make people understand, because at the entry level, especially, you're probably going to be dealing with clients. Like, even if you're working at a help desk inside of a company, all of those people who work at the company are your clients. If you're working at a consulting firm or you're in a SOC, you're going to be talking to people. And one of the biggest things that kind of grinds my gears, having worked around a lot of SOCs and a lot of IT outsourcers, is everybody in, like, tier 1 through 3 who is mad at all their clients for being stupid.
Right. Oh my God.
Well,
Don't get
they
me started.
are. That's
Yes,
your job.
that
That's
is.
why they pay you.
If they weren't stupid, and it's again, it's not that they're dumb, they're just uneducated on something
Yeah,
that you need to know. That's why you're here.
exactly. That's your whole job. I learned this my first job out of the Marine Corps. I had the network team, the email team, and the Lotus Notes team. For those of you who don't know what Lotus Notes is, God bless you. Um, um, it's basically what Viva and Teams are now, but
It is. It
rabbit
is.
hole. But I learned then that, like, that's where I learned that the business doesn't care about IT, because they all have jobs to do. And so we would be sitting there obsessing over email storage space, or, why, all of the, like, the network problems are all here, and the users are being dumb and doing something, because the users don't care, because the VP of sales has sales to go make, and the finance team has to get money moving. The real estate team's buying. Like, the IT's job, like, the technology should just work. And when it doesn't, they're mad because they can't do things. So, like, your job is to be unseen, and, like, you need to realize that you exist as part of a business, and
Yes.
no business is in the job of spending all of their revenue on cybersecurity.
Yeah. And I would say majority of them believe it's not something they need to spend money on, because if you have a good program, your success criteria is basically that you don't exist.
Mm. Yeah, I jokingly say, if you're not the if you're in the security team and the CEO knows who you are, that's probably because bad things are happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or you're the one doing all the education, and you're walking around and doing user training. Like, that's the exception.
And that's where I excelled when I worked for a Fortune 100, is I put myself out there, and I
Mhm.
became that kind of go-to person, that knowledge person who would share and educate. And one of the most critical skills I think that I had to learn was, like, the people listening to you are going to take, if you have a this hour long, podcast that you and I just did, people are going to take one or two things. Like, we just spoke for an hour. You are going to remember, dear listener, about 30 seconds of one little tidbit, and that's okay. But the reason I tell you this is, like, if you're afraid of presenting, or if you're afraid of doing those things, like, you don't need to be, because no one's going to retain half the shit you say. Like, it's just
So,
not going to happen.
do you know Sahil Bloom?
Yes.
Yeah. So I was on a conference with him, web thing, whatever, and he was talking about his book, and I guess the first. It was either the first draft or when he first wrote it, or he had the idea. He was talking to his publisher or somebody was like, and the guy's looking at me. He looks at me. He goes, "Nobody cares." Nobody cares. He's like, if you write a crappy draft and it sucks, nobody cares. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, nobody's going to remember any of that. No, we are egocentric people, and that's not a bad term. We live in our own worlds. Like, we know, and we think that everybody else knows as much about us as possible. And this is what got me in my career. I would struggle, be like, why am I not getting promoted? Why am I not awesome? Why? Everybody knows I can do these things. No, Will,
Right.
you know you can do these things. You haven't told anybody else you can do these things.
Yeah, I was so terrible at that early in my career, like showcasing my skills at a leadership level or a higher level. It would just be get shit done, right?
Yeah,
And then you'd be like, yeah, great success. And then nobody would know about it. And because your job is to be invisible in many cases, uh, it's like, great, you've automated a process that saved $1.9 million and you told no one.
thank you.
It's like,
Yeah, my that SVP I had told to help groom me, who I still talk to today. I owe a lot of my career to the guy. Um, he's like, right now, Will, you are the guy we know. When there's a problem, we give you the ball.
yeah, yeah. I've been the
That's
wolf most
not
of
the
my
coach.
career.
That's not the
Yeah,
general manager.
no. No, I've been Winston Wolfe from Pulp Fiction my entire life. Like
Yeah.
it's like it's like, hang on, you're sending Robin? Shit, that's all you
Yeah.
had to say.
Oh, you had to
like,
say.
that's all you had to say. Like it'll be done. And I feel like I've put myself in that position multiple times, and I don't necessarily I feel like I understand it a little more now of why I'm in that position, which is I don't have a quit.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
failing isn't the end for me, it's just my first attempt in learning that thing, right? Like, and that is where I think you and I are the same, where we look at a problem, we go, "I can't figure that out, but I will figure it out."
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I
One of
may
the most
not know it
powerful
now,
words
but
ever
yeah,
yet.
yeah, I'll get to the bottom of that. Well, man, I definitely don't want to keep you much longer. I appreciate you. Please, let's plug all your stuff, your YouTube, everywhere else, like and anything else you want to plug, man. I'm happy to share the love. A lot of what you do, you give out a ton of free knowledge, and I'm all about promoting that and kind of getting more people to see that, because we need more people like you and I who are just trying to get back and trying to help people at our level, because there's so many people struggling right now.
It's a challenge, man. Yeah. My LinkedIn, that's where I'm most active. So it's WILKLU, Will Clue.
Mhm.
Uh, Keyboard Samurai on YouTube, which also goes to Spotify and Apple. If you're for the podcasts, I have a webpage, willclue.me, which is really similar stuff, and a newsletter. It's on the website. You can find there. You go to newsletter.willclue.me. The newsletter is great. Like I'll try to, LinkedIn only lets you post 3,000 characters. I don't necessarily give you more in the newsletter, but it's a little less filtered, so to speak. Uh, yeah. So, and I try to help anybody in the industry. Like that's the thing. Like if you're working in cybersecurity, so it's not. While there's a lot of content geared towards CISOs and CEOs and CFOs of companies, like it's still also very applicable to anybody working in the industry. Because I think a lot of it is, as much as I talk about like, oh, technology and these are the metrics you want to deal with, a lot of the conversations are, here's how you talk to a CFO, right? And I've had individual contributors reach out to me and say, hey, well, I'm having this problem and I don't know how to get, like, I don't have that financial information. I was like, no, but you still know how the business works, right? You
Right.
know the thing that you have to do. Look at that system. What happens if it goes away? And just ask, like, get in the meeting with the director of finance. Be like, hey, what happens if that system goes down for an hour? Just make them think. That's all you got to do. So a lot of that's just all about positioning and thinking about cybersecurity differently.
Yeah, I feel like those are very key things, and learning to talk to the C-suite is a skill in itself, right?
Yeah.
They don't have a lot of time. You need to start doing, stop doing, or pay for it, right? Like And you've got to have those conversations clear and concise. If you have like a 17-page presentation, like you stop,
Yeah.
like 1 or 2 pages, keep it really simple, high level. Here's what we need.
32
Here's the
point
ideation.
bullets. That's it. If you have
Yeah.
to drop your text bigger, smaller than 32, think about it.
Yeah. No, and
I actually have multiple pieces of content on how to present to executives. Like there's a whole carousel in there that people like how to go to the room, how to prepare for it, all that kind of stuff. Because yeah.
yes.
Well,
Yeah.
by the
Check
way,
that
if
out.
you want me to come speak at your thing, like you can hit me up on my webpage and or DM me on LinkedIn and I'll talk.
Definitely. Will's an amazing speaker, super fun guy, just a genuinely good human. And it really does a lot for cyber. So I highly recommend you hiring for your business talks or just to have him in the room when you're strategizing. His insights in the way his mind works is not like many others. So I highly recommend spending some time. But man, I appreciate you. Thanks so much. Everyone else out there listening, good luck out there.